Ooh, maybe you should start playing T-ball. Yeah? Or just soccer.
Okay, so it looks like everybody's done. So now, we're gonna talk about it. So what you're gonna do is, you're in the desk, so you're gonna stand up, you're gonna take your text with you, okay? So take your article with you. You're gonna find one person who you aren't already sitting with, because in your class setting, you guys are gonna have your kids grouped, okay? The great thing about this is you can also purposefully group your kids if you need to. A trick that I learned at the workshop that I went to was to keep a running tab, like an Excel document, of how you group your kids. If it's random this day, you have who's grouped together. Like you have them, you're the red group, you're the orange group, or if you have a color code, you have a popsicle stick, these guys are my diamonds today, and you keep track of that, and then the next time you do this, I needed to do purposeful grouping. I have so-and-so, because a lot of times, we don't realize we probably sometimes group them the same, and they realize that, they pick up on those trends. So it just helps you kind of keep the mix going. So, you're gonna find one partner who you are not already spoken with, and you're gonna take turns sharing 2 sentences that affirmed the position on the skills that you think a student wants, okay? So somebody you did not just share with initially, and I know we have an uneven number, and so when you're done, you're gonna signal to me with a thumbs up, so that way I know that you're done having that conversation. Okay, so go ahead.
So yours was.
So I.
No, I chose number 2, I chose right there, yeah.
That was so close to mine.
Because I just felt
Yeah.
like the cover of
Okay.
So
Well, I submitted
So
to,
when I did,
this
this was
supported it, where the bottom,
education research intent,
fifth,
that in order
students develop deep conceptual knowledge,
in
business
a
knowledge,
sense,
and the habits of reading, writing, and
conversation,
speaking, and then the other one was right underneath it, after it
another
means
word
that
that students will learn.
for your needs to know strengths, but not high school.
And then there should be specific mistakes, assessments, and opportunities to opportunities to read and write. And
also had
content
two.
area content.
And I said
So
they're
I was almost
absolutely
gonna choose that one,
Oh,
but
that's-
I would ask where it's not mentioned just basic social skills,
Mm-hmm.
or how
That
are we
was
social
one of my
needs,
favorite.
because, sometimes I have to start removed in reading how the climate is.
Sure.
And so I also chose that one through conversation, and then, this one kind of connected it, but the last one is when they become independent thinkers and help themselves.
Oh, which is,
Or class. Yeah.
that's good.
Alright, you guys can have a seat. Okay, so hopefully what you got out of this second talk situation was that you found similarities. You were possibly on the same path, but then they had something that you were like, oh, I did not think about that when I was reading. Yes, that makes a strong point. And all that does is the conversations allow them to happen freely. And then they start, what's great is, I haven't led any of this. I have stood back and allowed these conversations to happen freely. And then if you kind of notice that they're having those deeper conversations, you can kind of walk around and monitor that, and you can ask them. And if you have a group like we had over here, they were done, you guys are still going, and I can come over and say, hey, okay, so tell me about what was your choice and what was one of your examples. And so then we're having, because you guys are still having a great on-topic conversation, I don't wanna cut y'all short, so I'm gonna keep them engaged, walk around and say, hey, why don't you mix with this group, they're done. Ask them and see what similarities you guys had. So it just allows you that freedom of walking around and keeping those conversations on point and on target with where you want them to be. Okay, so now you're gonna write. So on your note card, respond to the following in a complete sentence. So how could talk, read, talk, write address some of the skills you believe are important for students? So now what's great about this part, you have them write their name on that note card, they leave that note card, you have a quick formative check. You guys have this as a tool to go back to. But and you can take a full talk, read, talk, write, can take anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes when you have a full class. It's quicker with you guys because it's 5 of us. But when you have 30 kids engaged, you can spend an entire class period on this. You have a formative check that takes you a few minutes to read the note cards. Okay, this is where we need to start. This is where we need to go. What's great about the talk, read, talk, write is that you can incorporate it anywhere into your lesson. I love to use it as an introductory, so that way I kind of see where they're at, what kind of knowledge do they have of it, and then I like to do it as a mid, and then I really like to bring it back at the end. And all I'm doing is collecting note cards and taking a few minutes of my time to read those note cards, see where they are. And then it allows me, and I'm like, hey, I love this thought that you had on that note card. And then they know, she actually read that. And then it builds up their confidence with you, and it builds up their confidence in the class to start to share out more. Okay, so what did we just do? So our talk 1, you took your position, you decided where am I, what am I standing on, what are my reasons, and then you shared it out. Then we did our read, so you had your article that you went through. I gave you guys are English teachers, I gave you a little bit longer of an article than I would give probably a freshman, but you can determine, you know your kids, you know their levels, you know what they can handle. And so then we did our talk 2, we shared it out again, you guys took your evidence from your article, shared that out, gave your reasoning, and then you wrote about it. So knowing the little bit that I do about English, you started with your problem, your choice, your thesis, so to speak. You had to get your evidence from the text. What is your textual evidence? How does it support? Now let me bring it all back together. This is the same thing we do in writing, or in science, except it's called claim evidence reasoning. We have to have our claim. What is our problem? What are we trying to determine here? We have to provide all of our evidence. Our evidence is just in tables, graphs, numbered. But then we still have to summarize it all up. So if your science department uses claim evidence reasoning, they're doing the exact same thing you guys are in English. We just use different words. And so it's just that thing, get the kids writing in classes more than just English. Then they come in and then they're not like, oh, I had to write another essay in English today. They're like, okay, I just had to write in science, I'm coming in English, it's not that big of a deal. It's the same flow, it's the same pattern. Okay, so it is, as I told you guys before, it is a literacy-based strategy, but it's all based on reading, okay? They're reading the questions, they're having to read the prompts, they're having to read the article, they're reading each other's responses, even if it's verbal and not written. So it goes through, so you have your talk 1, annotation, so that's where, like I said, you guys don't have a uniform one, but if as a freshman, you guys all do the same thing, you can let your freshman classes know, hey, if you guys are doing this, can you just use these words? We like them to box this, so if you can have them boxing, starring, whatever that might be. Then you have your talk 2, and then you have your write. Now, if you have kids that need those prompts, because they don't know those STEM sentences, those STEM breaks for them, you can leave this, you can have this, it's created to where it folds as a tent, and so if you have them grouped already, this sits in the middle of their table, and then they can just see. So this is what you guys are about to have to do in the session, in the example that I'm going to give you. In picture X, I see blank and blank. Picture X makes me think about, when I look at this picture, I wonder. And so just for those kids that kind of struggle, this is on their tent, nobody knows, it's on every single setup that you have, so nobody knows whether they use it or not, because it's there, right there in front of them, they're like, okay, good, I have it right here, okay? All right, so we are going to do the human anatomy. You can put your article aside. You guys are gonna need a highlighter and a card. No, you cannot switch cards, because you don't know how I'm gonna be using them anyways. Because we all know our kids, and when they walk into class and you hand them something and they're like, ooh, I'm green, who's green? Let me switch so I can make sure I'm with my friend. So what's great is always have backups, so that way you have a multitude of ways that you can ask them to mix it up. The other thing I love about talk, read, talk, write is it naturally allows you to bring in those Kagan strategies of getting them up. Yes. It's, and you do not have to be a Kagan expert to introduce the Kagan strategies. Okay, it's getting them up and talking, and I implement some in here, so you're gonna see, it's putting them in groups, having them talk to their shoulder partners, having them talk to their face partners, okay, and then just the strategies. There's a multitude of ways that you can incorporate it. I am not a Kagan expert by any means, but it's real easy for me to get it in there and kind of get it mixed in. So, the strategy that I use, I am introducing you guys to what is called the hook. So the hook is where I take a picture that is either from the article I have, or it is from something completely different, but somehow it relates to what I'm going to have them read. And with that hook, I ask those 3 questions that were on that stem sheet that I had you guys have before, okay? All right, so here's a picture. And if you wanna come up and kind of look at it, you can. And then on your note card, you're gonna write what are 3 things you see in this picture, what are 2 things you think about when looking at this picture, and what are 2 things you wonder when looking at this picture. I'm just trying to find my pen. Oh.
Could we turn the lights off for a minute?
Yes,
I feel like that might help.
I want to get the full effect.
Thank you.
There you go.